Welcome back to a special journey that traces the life cycle of a church bell from high above in its perch and back again. In this particular film, on this particular day, we are following a particular set of bells, produced by Gillett and Johnson over a century ago, and removed from the church tower in Greetham in January 2025. If we're going to talk about the journey of a bell, let's briefly go back to medieval times, where bells were made using quadrilateral sheets of iron. They were then bent and riveted into a wedge and curve. After the shaping of the metal, bells were dipped into molten copper to give them a musical tone. It's very likely that this labour would have happened in a pit outside the churches. Today, the creation of a new bell is a rarity, usually reserved for replacing those that are irreparably damaged. Most bells can hang in churches for centuries and will only really deteriorate in tone if the bell wasn't made at the best quality to begin with. Other reasons why brand new bells may be cast could be for a specific client with a specific need. For example, being a super fan of AC/DC and wanting a replica of the one made back in the 1980s. Or perhaps a peal of 6 bells becomes 8. We're going to explore how the team at Taylor's blend ancient techniques with modern technology to give new life to these classic instruments and all the components that go along with it. Step 1 in the life of any bell seeking new life begins with its careful descent from the tower. It's a delicate operation where precision and safety are paramount. In this story, the iron frame has completely deteriorated and it is not safe to ring the bells. So, as the entire frame is getting a revamp, the bells themselves get their own service and MOT. So here the bells are, sitting on the Foundry floor, ready and waiting for the next step in their journey. What is that next step? Well, it's very much dependent on the client and the condition of the bells. In this particular case, the bells have been found out to be slightly out of tune. Now, the client has a decision. They can either tune the bell that is out of tune, or they can tune all the other bells to be in tune with that out of tune bell.
Occasionally, when we're doing a job, we've got a good idea of what we're doing, of what the client wants, of what the end goal is basically with that job. We will then sometimes get frames in, we'll get jobs in, and we'll see that there's actually ways we can do things better that weren't initially obvious.
There are actually a lot of rules and regulations when it comes to church bells. Once a bell reaches a certain age, the church council can list it for preservation. A bit like giving it protected status. Medieval bell. But that also means that there are more hoops to jump through if you ever want to make changes, whether that's retuning, repairing, or even replacing a cracked bell.
Well, in the case of Greetham, the church had to get permission, so they had to apply for a faculty, they had to go through the proper channels and get permission for us to tune the bells. So even though we were able to start work on the frame and get quite a decent way through that, we were still waiting basically on that permission before we could go ahead and do any major work to the bells themselves.
Step 3 is where real magic happens. This is where each bell undergoes its transformation, precision tuning, fresh fittings, and a lot of skilled hands. Sometimes that means giving the bell a brand new headstock for better support. Old wooden ones can crack, warp, or simply wear out over time.
We don't typically do much to do with the actual bells, but if it's like a wooden headstock like this one, we'll carve it around the cannons. This is sapele, which is an African hardwood.
In the case of these bells, the original headstocks weren't as well designed as they could have been, which affected the dynamics of how they ran. Back in the wood shop, we are curious about how they get involved in the journey of a bell.
If it's only a partial restoration or there's conservation involved, sometimes we'll renew, on a case-by-case basis, we'll restore what we can. If it's a complete rip out, sometimes we'll like renew all of the running gear. There are loads of different parts that make up the running gear. You've got your runner bars, your sliders, your stays, roller boxes, your wheels, that sort of thing. And if it's a restoration project, usually we'll work on like the wheels and the roller boxes. And if we're going to renew things, typically it'll be the stay, the sliders and the runner bars.
Depending on what the clients want, the bells and their components can undergo different levels of servicing. New headstocks, bearings, clappers, the ensuite of running gear, brand new bell wheels, and sometimes, but not very often, retuning. In this case, these Greetham bells were retuned the tailor's way. Finally, the journey of these bells have come to an end and it's ready to return them home. The arrangements are made and the bells are securely transported back to the tower, where they will continue to ring out for generations to come. Next week we go into more detail about why that one bell sounded so wrong and how we fixed it, so make sure you subscribe for more.